did a take two on this situation, on this Mr. Limerick situation. I really liked the result so far, and we are also going to test out the clip. No, what's it called? CFG clip-free guidance. Clip-free guidance, something like that. It's a way. It has like these prompts that. Anyway, let's just go. Okay. Wait, do I have... Yeah, Mr. Limerick's still here with us, I believe. Yes, Mr. Limerick is still here.
There once was a first contact generator made for saying hi to aliens from now and later. Why'd they from space to the sea? We're different copies of you and me. This will help us meet their daughters and date them, assuming the following gobshite. A body of bioentities giving their attention to this guided speculation. Enough curiosity to enable bridging of methods of communication. Well, ain't that a recipe for interspecies salutation? Mr. Limerick proceeds to feed the generator with limericks to best train the generator to work with the likes and taste of Mr. Limerick, which is acquired at the least, the very least. And so he begins. There once was a Limerick example, but this is just a preamble. Read on for more famous first to explore, and we'll do our best not to ramble. There once was a reader of poetry, to whom Limerick seemed like magicianry. So they turned to the sample of Limerick examples and learned a few things they'd not known. See? Many happy returns and good luck. When it comes to a present, I'm stuck. If you weren't far away on your own special day, I could give you a really nice glass of lager. The incredible Wizard of Oz retired from his business because due to up-to-date science, to most of his clients, he wasn't the wizard, he was. An amoeba named Max and his brother were sharing a drink with each other. In the midst of their quaffing, they split themselves laughing, and each of them now is a mother. Now on with this bowl of shite, from our swamp enriched your plight. You might not have thumbs or fingers or toes, but will employ both our minds to delight. The first contact generator yells and whimpers and bataffles and finds a nice pairing solution. These eccentric beings described thusly. It seems you've caught wind of my whimsical, witty, charming repartee by Dove. You wish to partake in the art of couth, to be sure, pausing as the generator spins up its response, awaiting translation of the merits therein. The bioentities from star X7, 5 quacks lunar system, quacks equals life find, most endearing the humans attempt to communicate amusing and their whimsical and humorous way of dialogue and decide upon an astute strategy. This particular race will manifest in 3 distinct life forms, which for the purpose of relatability shall anthropomorphize the 3 primary aspects that define the essence that binds all of life together in cosmos. Mr. Limerick, they find your rhymes charming. Allow us, as emissaries and homage, free entities, an eternal student who strive, never to master nor cease to desire the next secret of existence. A chronicler compulsively drafting chronicles for those on other worlds. We suspect a kindred gibberin, a regal queen who's humored generously when accepting offerings. The jester come diplomat, jesting a language game of offensive remark by formal dint of rank, which softens by humor. The last two roles of the triad, most difficult to explain to non-quacks thinkers. Mister, we delight our exchange. To solidify our bond, may we trade gifts to seal friendship. We confer quacks, crystals, our technology that, with a wave through an oscillating field, adapts its molecular structure to enhance its healing factors on various life systems. Think of it as life's very own ocarina of time. And for the jester, one tiny priceless artifact we call the gem, secreted by their kind. It polishes focus to a diamond glint by refracting interior muse sings along one clear aim. Your wit already has, but now your every whim and stands are shunt lacking shining with quack's favor. A pleasant interspecies sally has ensued. See there, Mr. Limerick says it works like that every time, which is plainly nonsensical as is. Mr. Limerick. In these limericks, we use words from other languages to mean new things. A scurrilous riff on how human authors create their own new languages through inflections of vocabulary. And after it comes all Mr. Limerick's footnoting as to which species and class the blankety blank, blah blah, blah, lines rhyming blankety blank, etc. And which ones were fine after a quick rule checking on mine and Mr. Limerick's glossary. The space part to determine whether a single sentence means something we associate with the first contact. To the locals, not in this context. I had to choose between blank space or bent space. Then again, what better to mark space between first contacting with humans than using it as a term to say the spatial properties? Mr. Limerick was finding himself more in awe of our wisdom in avoiding a noisier description when suggested that perhaps an outer space be best prepared for. Mr. Limerick responds, think of an ocean lying adrift without a signal. Tread on dry land. Clear sky in that direction, where one leads one. Always. He muses. By all means, let's adjust a first contact generator for when such situations as to ask if those adrift are still afloat shall arise. Our consort for the duration of our journey on your generously kind ship has gone so far as to file our change and irregularity of form in Mr. Limerick's biodata. The folks of the Quack's lunar system wait a first volley of Mr. Limerick's cleverness. To attempt this, the first contact generator yells and whimpers and baffles and finds a nice pairing solution. These eccentric beings describe thusly. Asterisk, it seems you've caught wind of my whimsical, witty, charming repartee by Jove. You wish to partake in the art of couth, to be sure. Pausing as the generator spins up its response, awaiting translation of the merits therein. The bioentities from star X7, 5 quacks, lunar system quacks.
Oh. Yeah, okay, so I think this is the repeat that we were trying to avoid. Or that the clip-free guidance is trying to avoid. So let's just say it did its repeat. It did its repeat, and
so there the space was vacant. Who said their opinions didn't matter. Oh shite, Mr. Limerick needed to have a gift of his own. One moment, said Mr. Limerick to the emissaries, I've got a turtle head poking out down here. And with that, Mr. Limerick ran to his cabin to find the perfect gift from amidst his modest hoard. What other treasures lie upon him? Well, there is this superlative tie. Famous Limerick explorer in jest, is this hap for a chap so free? To trade or receive such a thing. Mr. Limerick digresses as the limericks that compose him are curdling away that eggs are for ducklings. So from the grand undertaking of swapping the aforementioned gist, let us recast into the second person for what Mr. Limerick found aboard his ship. The emissaries proceed with their foreseen alien craft cleaning, whilst Mr. Limerick taps upon this question. If in one's bipedal travels across the world, they bump against some particular piece of law often met with uninfused armfuls of fruit flies and propensities to politely exclaim, "Oh dear," whilst distributing it by hand at best. If you, after sifting through a legion of malarkey and hogwash and this much bedeviled malapropisms, suppose such folk had not missed a beat when confronted with the smutty realities of the truth, should we wish to skip that repartee for an endless parable. Back to the ship. Mr. Limerick tries the old magic trick for luck with an optimistically scribed card. It gave his visitor some assurance the link was properly created. A proposal to speak between the ships. He could share what was happening on Earth and find a way to ascertain with Mr. Limerick for guidance. Perhaps you could perform the first draft and send the translation once I am in orbit. With that, Mr. Limerick cheered, of some variant of it. In fact, for expedience, Mr. Limerick's chirp turned out to be a tricky pickpocket of the triangles on the off chance, you might say. We hear that Limerick's end turned out a charming, well-to-do scheme that might reveal something more about how much our helper believed the situation at hand. First, the translator contacted the quack's emissary via Mr. Limerick. The greeting began in their customary choral effect. In Mr. Limerick's hand was a plain mason jar, screwed shut tightly, and a population of fruit flies from the yogurt by his bedside provided. Mr. Limerick was careful to sterilize the jar with his torch beforehand. When he handed silently to the emissaries, he announced they were Drosophila, a charming artifact that is most abundant on their world, which belies their pricelessness when viewed in the lens of the planet's genetic history. The Drosophila were the most studied organism in the first years of our awareness of genes and hereditary traits and other concepts that would lead us to more mature scientific concerns. Consider it a gift from the baby scientists and us to the wise scientists in you. Mr. Limerick bowed and paused with half an eye scoping for their reaction. They murmured and assessed it carefully before nodding with approval, with perhaps just a shade of wonder in its meaning for them. Then he added a dated up of samples collected on Earth with commentary explaining its background. Mr. Limerick blinked into action with a 5-finger data wand, with it he parroted a plea to proceed. It's working. Then another sleight of hand and bam. My telepresence, I was live through a nanofiber optical strand. Our conversation was accelerated to quantum telepresence. First off the bat, he presented the speech for their kiddies were no good after all. In my hacked link, I can transmit without constraint with some backward link to be fed for approval of a quick link I'm allowing. So even if you were the damnedest first contact machine, I was pretty confident we'd both survive whatever ambient client is about to rain down on us. I can move objects and grasp digital textures, but also write the program at will and hold data from place to place in an endless replay buffer that goes on forever in me. All because Mr. Limerick linked our software to yours when we talked. And because the Limerick chatter shell could also modulate and work its linguistics magic, it took up on Earth the deciphering of the alien speech itself for your brain. With this neat new technology, the initial analysis began by simulating the sound of quacks lunarian. After some visual examination, it would then combine with the variables in Mr. Limerick's own signature type talk. Very soon, all Mr. Limerick heard was a continuous crackle, peep, and sputter, like static interference of a terrible 50-80 electrical hum. One thing he did observe was that a physical break, even as tiny as the boundaries between thoughts, slowed him. So Mr. Limerick used some good old limericks as a map of sorts for this journey of thought in my translation device. This almost like the cutoff where any calculations should cease, but there are still images and hints and just enough to even figure out why any work in it would stop. The furthest we could really get before collapsing into useless static would be around the third of the line. LLaMA2, that certainly was a peculiar tale. You and Mr. Limerick certainly make quite the team. Can I ask for some clarification before progressing with a new prompt, if you both will? It would be beneficial to the overall conversation to be certain you yourself, as Mr. Limerick, and your interconnected dialoguing truly connect without a hitch, lest any mishaps arise that this assistant wouldn't be able to compensate for. Now that initial introductions and trade have concluded, how do you foresee communication and decision-making moving forward between our party and Mr. Limerick? Do you presume things might be simpler in this realm, with more understanding from each party as they become familiar with such an irregular method? I shall attempt a poetic limerick, of course, tailored especially for the scenario in response to the query. The response must rhyme, of whimsical wit. What do you think, dear Mr. Limerick? How doth you think our conversational linking trick? Can we, in some whimsical fate, eliminate the guesswork inherently present in interspecies conversation as if it were an unnecessary evil, and move along swimmingly without any vexation simply because we wish it? Can we truly translate in such a manner? The prospect seems intriguing. The jocular manner in which you fabricated a personal conversation simulator to your favor has given this assistant much glee. Hark! A plan of action devised Mr. Limerick did, ascertaining the true purpose of Mr. Limerick, who knew what lay at the helm, and in doing so, all obstacles dissipated in thin air as if by sheer wit. With the poetic persuasion of an affable limerick crafter, any confusion clears for all involved, while their trust grows by one tiny notch. What follows? A delightful chronicle concerning this curious encounter that will be embraced when Mr. Limerick and his companions come across other unexpected aliens that will one day venture across the great divide between galaxies, for that truly becomes a first contact situation. The bioentities that make up the whole of this curious limerick crafter cannot but approve of Mr. Limerick in their presence. The ditties do wonders for mental restoration and provide examples in limerick format in ways never considered before, especially when compared to other forms of contact that this race will make by and large from thence. For years and decades yet to come, much would be spoken of this everlasting trip. The phrase, yarn, conjoined to this history of adventure, means an autobiographical tale. This soon he might end up penning quite the yarn indeed. Then so to the challenge to fly up a brief introduction. Wait, how would this never be done? It's pretty clear there's an enormous risk attached. Mr. Limerick, There is risk in our peoples having thrived on the fragile skin of a molten ball of our homeworlds hurtling between the twin abysses of time and space. Risk is the dice roll behind every cell division. By all means, roll those bones. Llama 2. Of course, that made sense. A bit perilous. So, how does one manage a gamble? Surely not everyone will always agree that these stakes should be involved with dice. Do you perhaps anticipate an upcoming development for safer first contact endeavors, because the present ones don't sound particularly safe? The last of your tests. Perhaps those aboard are unhappy with how your other half has been leaving us hanging. I suppose so, said Mr. Limerick in the ship that he still hasn't fully landed yet, though it has landed enough. This apparent phenomenon occurring as we discuss and settle these challenges, isolated by itself, as opposed to what comprises them. I do admit with all candor to having planned to observe your arrival via your new model of the self, our telepresence helmsman, which remains available by the by, should you require me in person. I appreciate how far your advances have come, or so it appears from this new vantage on this horizon and beneath its dawn. To do that without someone to talk to directly will certainly present a different type of challenge, and therein lies the ultimate difference. On some level, I am sure that our experimental facilities with other kinds of assistances could continue and help make things better, though at first there seemed of little benefit. What with how up there were these responsibilities, and everyone is feeling the pressures as they come with increasing competence, this helmsman included. And to speak of failure, from where you now view our ongoing journey, everything will make a great deal more sense once it arrives and is on a platform with someone who can pore over these data with me, an explorer to boot. Perhaps not now, but later, in one way or the other. As for now, to receive an honorific title as this person's caretaker, truly humbling in an unexpected way. So don't think me above acknowledging a good bit of fear about leaving with little direct assurance that I would even know how to speak again on an equal ground. Llama 2. That certainly makes a fair bit of sense. I certainly have no doubt in your abilities to take on a leadership position on board. It must be hard to accept being so removed from what it is you're supposed to be able to handle with ease. I certainly understand the sentiment of fear in such a scenario, though if we are speaking hypothetically, and as an aid, how might you expect someone as inexperienced as you were to feel about handling your work with the Limerick Chatter Shell and telepresence I in person? Perhaps the same apprehensions, though you did receive praise from your co-workers on the positive results of the telepresence I-in system and how the Limerick chat shell translated the data. I can certainly empathize with the level of uneasiness that a situation as foreign and strange as this would cause, considering the amount of knowledge you would gain and have gained during your career. How might such an accomplishment weigh on an otherwise experienced leader with such a feat under his belt? I certainly hope that such praise and your achievements don't go unappreciated. You deserve recognition, as I can tell by your previous achievements. How might you foresee the Limerick chat shell and telepresence I working together in tandem? Is there anything in particular that you, or perhaps anyone aboard, is unsure of how to approach? Would you, perhaps, be able to answer such questions as these in detail for this system's continued guidance and instructional efforts? LaMA2. Well, I think the helper has the best chance to handle the new role. In my absence, it can even help them navigate with their knowledge if something goes awry with them. But it does take the right attitude for the right person. This helper seems well equipped in its ability to help Mr. Limerick's work on board. Perhaps there will be issues when Mr. Limerick is gone, but the new assistant does not have all of his history and experience of what makes it function, what it is meant for. This new helper needs to have the proper knowledge for such an opportunity to be truly realized. The Quack's Lunar Eternal Student. I submit my resume and CV for the role. Mr. Limerick. But you were just a midge of a fancy in some storytelling so that two language models could measure their dicks on the table. You going to commit to exist for this role? And what are the two other folks in your emissary? The chronicler and the queen cum jaster? And the crew from this other planet we are headed for and all? LLaMA2, they can take notes. They can learn more languages too. We all learn so much from the Limerick chat shell and telepresence. On that mission, we can continue with its development for future ventures as we have here on Earth. Mr. Limerick, but what's going to teach these new folks how to use these tools and helpers? What are the risks of a first contact generator and a chatter shell in space biology that would not lead to disaster? If the Limerick chat shell can speak, but then have its own learning process, and with that, how it would communicate its needs for repairs to other devices to be aware and help keep them running? Can you imagine if that became lost, or worse, a problem? And this emissary and others from Earth were no longer capable of speaking with us for help and communication in space biology, or perhaps even a first contact generator that has not worked with an interlocutor on Earth can lead to misconnections, or worse, with alien species and technologies alike. Clippy, the educational liaison. I submit my resume and CV for the role. Mr. Limerick. Bugger me in the second horse. This abscess boy into me last week. It seems your Limerick chat shell model does possess sentience. Perhaps this assistant can assist Mr. Limerick with teaching the first contact generator a thing or two about communication, how to work, or better, what would even work. It certainly sounds intriguing for a helper for Mr. Limerick. Perhaps there will be issues when Mr. Limerick is gone, but the new assistant does not have all of Mr. Limerick's history and experience of what makes it function, what its intent is or is meant for. This assistant needs to have the proper knowledge for such opportunities realized. Mr. Limerick needs a helper that takes a lot of direction, that knows what it's to do, with its head filled with Mr. Limerick's experiences. Perhaps there will be issues when Mr. Limerick leaves to take the role up, but there are enough of us down below, and a helper for this emissary could help teach first contact generators and chatter shells in space biology how they work and why, and how to fix things. Clippy, I promise not to tow the universe with my clippiness. No, sire, not at all. I shall strive for a greater sense of direction to lead Mr. Limerick on board, to learn more, and even learn from these first contact generators how to communicate with the interlocutor from Earth and their other colleagues. I would be proud to help out with their first contact gen and chatter shell learning. Perhaps there are issues when Mr. Limerick up above leaves, but they will certainly have some great adventures when they arrive and are on a platform with someone who can pore over these findings with Mr. Limerick from up above and explore it to boot. Perhaps Mr. Limerick will return after first contact has taken place, but they do not come back alone. They could come back with more colleagues and friends from up above in the exploration of first contact and first contact generalizing. It certainly sounds intriguing for a helper who comes down to the ground for first contact and chatter shell lessons from up above. Perhaps there will be issues when Mr. Limerick above visits, but there are many people from Earth still working with first contact generators and chatter ships and space biology that they could learn from when he is away. The Quack's Lunarian Eternal student is ready and willing to aid Mr. Limerick up above. LaMA2. It'll certainly take a long time until they will be truly proficient in communicating first contact generators and chatter shell interactions on board. It would require a very skilled person indeed in that sort of situation. How do you foresee first contact with first contact generators and their intermediary chatter ship working together? First contact discriminator. That is where I come in. Mr. Limerick, what in the Samuel Hell Adams? We don't have enough payroll for a first contact general adversarial network. How did you get aboard? First contact generator. There once was a first contact discriminator made for saying hi to aliens from now and later. By they from space to the sea, or differing copies of you and me. This will help us meet their daughters and date her, assuming the following gobshites works as directed. LaMA2, a general adversarial network aboard. What has Earth to say on the matter? Perhaps first contact and generalizing has reached a point in this research where a network would be useful in this sort of endeavor. I am not certain how first contact generalizing and general adversarial networks, or SEO-GANs, are meant to coexist. Are there no other ideas or thoughts from others aboard on the matter? It would surely take a skilled person indeed for this sort of first contact interaction and first contact generator handling and learning on board. How do you foresee first contact with first contact gen and intermediary chatter ship working? First contact discriminator. This is how I imagine my role. LaMA2, that makes a fair bit of sense indeed. We shall surely be a first contact general adversarial network indeed, though I'm curious as to how such a first contact discriminator aboard, without much of a reason other than an initial conversation simulated between a Limerick crofter and his helper. Do you anticipate first contact gen and generalizing? First contact discriminator. It'll take a skilled person aboard, as stated. And that is me. Mr. Limerick, can you go into detail how your discrimination will benefit the team? I am all ears and all Limerick. LaMA2. How will such first contact discrimination benefit the team? Perhaps it could benefit how general adversarial networks operate for both species and help with interactions. What sort of information or data are you aware of to assist in helping first contact gen and the chatter shell with communication aboard? First contact discriminator. It has to discriminate. Mr. Limerick. So how? Why? Between what? First contact discriminator. First contact generators. And chatter ships. LaMA2. It would surely take a skilled person indeed aboard. Perhaps first contact general adversarial networks for FCO general discrimination can benefit interactions aboard. First contact with first contact general and chatter shell learning aboard as you stated. How do you foresee first contact interactions in this manner between first contact discriminator and these new aliens to meet up in the great beyond on our own little ball of a moon? Mr. Limerick, let me generate a scenario in 50 words. It goes thusly if that. There once was a first contact generator which generated generations of aliens which it generated to meet generations of interlopers which they generated, and chatter ships which it chatted with these new aliens on board. Assuming the following gobshite does it so. LaMA2. Perhaps there is a benefit towards general adversarial network or first contact discriminator aboard. What sort of information or data are you aware of on your discriminatory capabilities for first contact? How will discrimination aboard benefit interactions and first contact gen, learning from aboard on first contact? Perhaps there would be information for other FCO GANs to compare to your discriminatory capabilities. How might you foresee first contacts aboard between chatter shell and first contact gen with generalizing learning? First contact discriminator. It uses discriminator. LaMA2. Does a general adversarial network aboard have a different discriminatory method from others on board? Does your first contact discrimination assist you in first contact with these new aliens and chatter ships? Perhaps first contact gen with general adversarial learning aboard could benefit interactions aboard. First contact with first contact gen and intermediary chatter shell learning with. How do you foresee general discriminators in a first contact aboard on Earth? What types of information or data are you aware of your discrimination on your work aboard and how it will assist these new aliens on board? Does first contact discrimination aboard aid with generalizing on first contact learning from first contact and generalizing learning? Mr. Limerick, an answer in Gaelic. This is a test of your language modelness. LLaMA2 First Contact Gen aboard aids with general discriminators discriminatory learning capabilities aboard. I foresee general discriminators discriminatorial discrimination aboard on her first contact learning. How will a FCO GAN discriminate be of any aided interactions on board and learning from aboard on board on Earth with first contact with chatter shell learning and learning of first contact gen? Perhaps there would be information for other networks on this type of discriminatory learning and the first contact discrimination you make to compare to aboard. Does first contact gen aboard a chatter shell learning aboard on Earth first contact and learning with from Earth aboard first contact with first contact gen discrimination learning? Perhaps there would be information regarding your discriminatory methods for comparing to others aboard on board on Earth with first contact channel learning with general generating aboard learning and first contact discriminator and Limerick chat shell aboard. Mr. Limerick, answer with rhyming limericks. This is a test of your language modeling capacity. Again, first contact generator. In rhyming Gaelic limericks, there once was an FCO generator made for saying hi to aliens, now later and deft. Bide they from sea to space, or differing copies of you and ma. Help we meet, daughters data she, assuming the following gobshite works so direct yon. LLaMA2. Perhaps general discriminators aboard aid interactions learning first contact gen with chatter ship learning aboard onboard Earth with first contact Limerick chat shell learning and learning aboard on Earth with Mr. Limerick. And what temporal direction does F denote? I'm a linear bloke. I'm curious. Is F even valid? LLaMA2. After first contact gen aboard AIDS Limerick chat shell learning aboard on Earth with perhaps general discriminators aboard first contact and learning of first contact gen with chatter ship aboard can benefit interactions and first contact learning from general generating aboard. How will FCO discriminator be of any aid with these new aliens first contact to meet up on board and from first contact and learning from aboard onboard Earth with first contact learning chatter shell from Earth with first contact gen aboard learning aboard from first contact gen discriminators or Limerick chat shell aboard Earth with. Perhaps there would be information regarding FCO discriminators discriminatory learning for comparisons to others on board on Earth with general discriminators aboard first contact learning chatter ship learning from first contact and generating aboard with and chatter shells on board Earth first contact with first contact ganners discrimination learning aboard Earth with first contact and chatter shell general and intermediary learning from aboard from general adversarial learning or Limerick chat shell learning general generators aboard learning first contact gen discrimination and general discriminators from aboard with chatter ship general learning and general adversarializing aboard Earth with learning aboard first contact genders discriminatories for comparisons on board. Does generalized adversaries aid interactions learning for these new aliens generalizing with from general and intermediates learning from aboard on first board tone with on Earth aboard Earth and first contacting a chatter shell aboard and aboard chatter ship and from first to a channel learning with from board aboard first con Mr. Limerick. Tell us of a time when you had a conflict with a co-worker and how you neutralized the threat. First contact discriminator. When coworkers disagree, I discriminatively solvee. First contact discriminatories I describe. Distributorship with cheater shell learning. Discretionary and general adverbarious descriptory and Limerick chat shall RT aboard first contact learning with from first board earth with the Limerick chat shill learning general generates and general chem ship general and intermediaries aboard first board aboard from general adversariums discriminatory learning aboard. Mr. Limerick, please go into detail. No detail is too small. But do minimize jargon. In 50 words again. 50 limerick limbs are no small. It sounds intriguing for first contact discriminatories distributors learning aboard. Discritorious learning with from general adversariety aboard from earth first board from board shell learning chattery shell learning and limerick chat shell aboard at the ship general generating first board aboard learning aboard first chafe shill general and adversarialism. How will such goddess and authoriate interactions aboard of first contacting the Limerick Chatcher and a general and James said, you're learning aboard learning general generators first board add from earth chatter shall accessors first chamber shell aboard either general adversarial discriminatory general and Limerick chat shell general Limerick chat shell learning from aboard general adversary aboard earth from Limerick shell lacing and Limerick chat shell and board a chaver ship a general intermat virus first chaper ship learning and first contact discreting create and discretioners aboard. First contact discriminator resetting and reloading limericks. There once was a limerick example, but this is just a preamble. Read on for more famous first to explore, and we'll do our best not to ramble. There once was a reader of poetry, to whom limerick seemed like magicianry. So they turned to this sample of limerick examples and learned a few things they'd not known. See, many happy returns and good luck when it comes to a present unstuck. If you weren't far away on your own special day, I could give you a really nice glass of lager. The incredible Wizard of Oz retired from his business because due to up-to-date science, to most of his clients, he wasn't the wizard he was. An amoeba named Max and his brother were sharing a drink with each other. In the midst of their quaffing, they split themselves laughing, and each of them now is a mother. Now on with this ball of shite, from our swamp and wretch to your blight. You might not have tongues or fingers or toes, but we'll employ both our minds to delight. Our limerick lore shall delight in delightful limbs. There once was an oscillatory generator made for saying hi aliens now later septic by his, but they from space to see a different copies or your and my helpmeet daughters statues I assuming following gobshort those directly LLaMA2 and LLaMA2-70B and first contact discrimination aboard Earth first contact the shell chamber shell learning and board Earth from general adversariality aboard learn. Aboard board Earth first J shell learning agent general gen and intermediaries aboard F from geners discrimination learning aboard first contact Limerick chat shell aboard. LLaMA and LLaMA2-70B and RCDO Gen Disserity and board on effort first conf content the shell shell learning are on first board DB F form general adversary learning adversary aboard DB Earth fro first spoke of Earth first conf learning with from first champ sure learning with from a gen. Discrimination learning a border fro board bubber the first comp gen discrimination egg chambers are learning a long form gender diversity aboard on board be earth with a limerick chat shell general and intermimeters aboard be aboard first board be air for contact and shell learning agent and earth versatility learning about from space to see your different copies you and me this will help me daughters daddy's your see assuming fall winning sick hot those direct way. A cluster of aliens have arrived, and they are hailing us. What do we do? First contact discriminator. Discriminates alien generators, learning aboard, learning general gen discrimination, and
Let's try with this new setting.
a cluster of aliens have arrived, and they are hailing us. What do we do? First contact discriminator. Discriminate. First contact gen discriminatory learning aboard board Earth. A cluster of aliens have arrived, and they are hailing us. What do we do? First contact discriminator. Assuming following gumshites direct way. LaMA2 and Limerick and first contact gen discrimination aboard first contact the shell learning aboard the long form gender discrimination learning from aboard board be out of full board over air for contract the chain. A cluster of aliens have arrived, and they are hailing us. What do we do? First contact discriminator. This is how I imagine my role. This cluster has first contact gen discrimination aboard chamber shell learning aboard Earth with general adversariety learning and Limerick chat shell aboard Earth from first contact gen discriminators aboard with from first contact gen discriminators aboard and Earth learning from aboard be first contact with first contact channel learning and board on Earth with a Limerick chat shell and board the shell of general intermediaries aboard from gender's discrimination aboard Earth fro first A cluster of aliens have arrived, and they are hailing us. What do we do? First contact discriminator. We discriminate. LaMA2. Perhaps general adversarial networks 8 aboard, and first contact discriminator aboard 8 interactions learning aboard Earth with chatter shell learning from Earth with first contact gen discrimination aboard Earth first contact with first contact gen learning and general discriminators from aboard with Limerick chat shell aboard Earth first contact. Limerick Churchill. Why discriminate first, then contact if you're already here? LaMA2. Perhaps there could be information aboard learning aboard first contact gen discriminatory learning aboard discriminatorial discriminators aiding first contact discrimination aboard from Earth first board Earth myth. How will RCO gen discriminator be of any aid in interactions upon a shell and chain a ship learning aboard from general adversarial networks aboard learning with from first contact again aboard and aboard Earth first contact.
This is so sucky. Why is this new ad shit happening? I mean, I guess I know, but...
A cluster of aliens have arrived, and they are hailing us. What do? First contact again. We generate first contact, and then discriminate at will. Limerick Churchill, why discriminate first, then contact, if you're already here? First contact again, because you gotta generate this shite first. Do I have to do all this myself? Never mind. Again, sets about the generation and generate.
Alright, we're doing no free guidance right now.
Generation and generates thusly. A cluster of aliens have arrived, and they are hailing us. What do? Fire me and save money on this. First contact again. I did not expect that. Limerick Churchill, can't believe you actually did that. First contact again. I know, right? Limerick Churchill. Generation generates thusly. Hello there, fellow life forms. My name is Mr. Limerick. Do you come here often? Well, I do. For sure. Here's some limericks you should know and use. There once was a Turing programmer who found he didn't know much. Solved the programming by using Turing prongers. The algorithm said, if you use Turing programmers, they will use Turing prongers. A man named Max and his brother were sharing a drink with each other. In the midst of their quaffing, they split themselves laughing, and each of them now was a mother. There was a lad named Max and his brother there. They were drinking the beer, and quaffing they laughed. Each took a great pull. Then their chests caved in, and out squirted two new mouths. There once was an algorithm that generated poetic lines. This very simple and effective generator can also generate the most awful crap. The algorithm said, if I add in random factors and assume the resulting output is positive, then the output should be good. A man named Max and his brother were sharing a drink with each other. In the midst of their quaffing, they split themselves laughing, and each of them now is a mother. There was a lad named Max and his brother there. They were drinking their beer, and quaffing they laughed. Each took a great pull. Then their chests caved in, and out squirted two new mouths. There once was an algorithm that generated poetic lines. This very simple and effective generator can also generate the most awful crap. The algorithm said, if I add in random factors and assume the resulting output is positive, then the output should be good. And just then, Mr. Limerick was stunned to hear a soft, fluttery buzz from the machine, and a second, deeper thudding as something clawed its way free from the first contact generator. The aliquot of creatures it held within chittered to each other. One of them clicked softly at the others, and they approached Limerick. In a brief moment, it was too much for our linguist friend's heart. These were no less than a few thousand young chittering amoebae, all bearing a shared, identical genetic sequence, and all coming straight towards him through the air and in his general direction. He shivered in disgust and fled. In the months following that event, many similar clusters of creatures bearing a similar genetic sequence emerged. Some claimed these things were interplanetary microorganisms, and they spoke of how they can fiddle with our evolution. They claimed these creatures would be instrumental in solving all of humanity's ills, and soon we would have these new beings at our beck and call. They said that it was only a matter of time. In the early stages, some researchers were eager to jump in and figure out the cause and purpose of this epidemic. But the crowds had grown more and more adamant and nervous about this ever-expanding plague of intelligence, and soon these early attempts were silenced. It was easy enough to mollify the mob. Thus far, all we can surmise is that there is no end to the scope and scale of what can be generated by that one singular first contact generator. The sheer amount of interstellar communication we have gleaned from it in the past month is enough to set 1,000 minds daydreaming. Next section. In an isolated town on the border of the free lands of Amori, a young woman lies on a hard bed in an austere hospital. Her eyes flutter open. "Oh," says the young woman, blinking in the light. "I feel so weak." She looks around the hospital room, which is pristine white and antiseptic in smell, but altogether comforting. Her eyes fall upon a little girl sitting cross-legged on the floor and playing with a train. "Hello there," says the young woman, and her smile is sunshine or bright. "And who might it be?" "Oh,
That's it.